Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webcast. My name is Christine Dorsey Davis. I'm the Executive Director of the Ohio chapter of the American Planning Association, and I am your webcast moderator. Today is Friday, July 14th. We're halfway through July. How did that happen? And we are going to hear LEED for communities, planning for sustainability, resilience, and equity. For content questions related to the presentation, just type those in the Q&A box, and we will get to those at the end of the presentation during the Q&A. If you have technical questions, type those also in the Q&A box, and I will do my best to answer those for you. Coming up next on your screen is a list of our sponsoring APA chapters and divisions for 2023. Thanks to all those participating sponsors for making these webcasts possible and free to members. Today, we are sponsored by a consortium of divisions. You'll hear a little bit more about them, and they produce this wonderful sustainability and resilience series. Up on your screen are our next 3 webcasts. Actually, there's one more app that we have available that you're going to hear about today. I think that is available for you to register for as well. So to register for all of our upcoming sessions, head over to ohioplanning.org/planningwebcast. Don't forget to log those CM credits. Today's session is worth 1.5 CMs. And also one of the dedicated sustainability and resilience required credits is also available. You can log your credits by heading over to planning.org, log into your My APA account, and from there you can either search by the title of today's webinar or the event number, both of which can be found again on our website, ohioplanning.org/planningwebcast. If you're on social media, be sure to like us on Facebook. That's where I post any important date or time changes. I'll post when new sessions are available for you to register for, along with a reminder of our upcoming weekly webcast. We record all of our sessions and post them onto our YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you get notified when a new session has been posted. Just head over to youtube.com and you can search and type in planning webcast into the search and we'll pop up along with our well over 400 session recordings, all available for free. Many of them are available for distance education, including all of the sessions in the sustainability and resilience series, which again, you'll hear about that next. So again, type your questions as you think of them into the Q&A box. We'll get to them at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Carla, to kick things off here. And you're muted, my dear.
Of course, that always happens. Hello, everybody, and thank you, Christine. Welcome to the Sustainability and Resilience series. I'm Carly Ebenbach with Ebenbach Consulting based in Miami, and I'm chair of the APA Sustainable Communities Division, and I'm very happy to present today's session. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the series and encourage you to keep attending our events. The series was created to provide opportunities for planning professionals to broaden and deepen their knowledge while allowing them to earn the AICP Sustainability and Resilience CM credit live or on demand. And so we're grateful to Christine Dorsey and the Ohio chapter for partnering with us to bring the series to life. Next slide. Series recordings are a permanent library of resources available for free, thanks to the dedicated efforts of fellow professionals donating their time and their expertise to make presentations and organize events. And as Christine mentioned, now available on YouTube are all of these great sessions. There are too many to read off, but I'll note that the most recent edition was our June session, which was called Regional Collaboration of Utilities and Communities Towards Sustainability, Resilience, and Equity Goals. You can follow the link to find any of these, and we'll post the link to the YouTube in the chat as well. Today's recording will be available soon on that same platform. Next slide. And there are more exciting sessions with top-notch professionals in store for 2023. These are the various broad-based partnership-related sessions that we've been offering this summer. This is the second of those. And registration is now open for the August session during this summer of partnerships. Next slide. So you're about to hear LEED for Cities and Communities, Planning for Sustainability, Resilience, and Equity. During today's session, we'll hear from a planning professional who was integrally involved in the development and implementation of this LEED program, which is a framework and resource that all planners should be aware of. The program has been implemented hundreds of times around the world, and it has provided a powerful collaborative tool for meeting sustainability, resilience, and equity goals one city or community at a time. We'll come away today with a better understanding of the LEED for Cities and Communities rating system and with some exposure to real-world examples of its implementation. I'm hoping that this will instill in you some ideas about how it may be applicable in your own communities. Of course, planners can make a visible and important difference, given their role in putting forth solutions to problems and facilitating a local process that connects to as well as influences broader efforts. Our actions have the potential to create lasting positive change around us. Today, you'll be able to ask some questions. And next slide. Our speaker is ready to share his expertise on this subject, and I'll let him introduce himself more fully. We are going to hear from Dr. Vatsal Bhatt, Vice President of LEED for Cities and Communities at the U.S. Green Building Council. Thank you so much for attending today. And Christine, I turn it back to you.
All right, great. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Vatsal, it's all you.
Thanks a lot, Carla and APA SCD for inviting us. And thank you all for being here. Christine, thank you so much for hosting us and offering us all the help from the Ohio chapter. So today I'll just tell you a kind of story, and you can feel free to ask questions. And as Christine has highlighted, we'll be most probably trying to answer each and every question. If we can't, then we'll try to send some of the answers later on. But as Carla was trying to give a brief introduction, I'm also one of the members of SCD as well, and have been part of APA for quite a long time. Coming from the urban planning background and have done a lot of energy economics for 17 years at Brookhaven National Laboratory, I was itching to do something on the ground. And that's where I got an opportunity to work on developing LEED for Cities and Communities in 2012-13 timeframe. So I reduced my time at Brookhaven National Laboratory and started consulting with US Green Building Council, and was part of team developing the LEED for Cities and Communities, and we launched it in December 2016. And our interest is to have this particular program as an integral part of USGBC's offerings. So you know that USGBC has been here USGBC has been here in the United States and elsewhere globally for last 30 years. This is our 30th year. And mainly USGBC is known for the rating system for buildings and then interiors of the buildings. And we have LEED ND as well, neighborhood development. But LEED and USGBC were looking into a perspective with which we can look into cities and communities more comprehensively, like the way urban planners do, the planners do. And that's where I think I came with the perspective of systems approach and data related discussion. And that's where all the smart cities discussion was also starting. So trying to integrate all the systems at the urban scale, and how can we really connect from interiors of the buildings to communities to cities. And that is where you can see this particular graphic that showcases an actual implementation, actual connection between interiors, that is USGBC's headquarter offices at 2101 L Street in Washington, DC. And the building is also LEED Gold certified. It is located in Golden Triangle Business Improvement District, which is LEED Platinum certified. And it is located, Golden Triangle bid is located in Washington, D.C., which is also LEED certified. That was actually the first LEED certified city in, I think it was August 2017. So with that kind of background, I think I would want to give you a little bit more perspectives about LEED for cities and communities and talking more about LEED for communities. So ultimately, our interest is to have a piece of this particular discussion, talking about carbon neutrality and equitable places and cities and buildings and interiors and stuff like that. So mainly, we are trying to really make a change comprehensively, and we all working in the urban planning field would like to really see whether it helps us or not. So as Carla was saying, if at all it's helpful to you, please reach out to me or anyone else on our USGBC team to see how we can work with you, how you can utilize this particular rating system. But conceptually speaking, as we planners have been taught to, simply mostly think about planning. I think I was coming with a perspective of working with the national policies, and I'm like, yes, we can design national policies. We can work with cities, governments, as well as local champions. But I think what can we do to really bring the benefits of implementing something on the ground back into the planning process and complete that feedback loop? With that, we try to launch two different types of rating systems, called a rating system for plan and design, that is for all new developments, and the rating system for existing operating and managing cities and communities. So here in the plan and design rating system, we talk about strategies for new and developing places or redeveloping places, you can say. And here in the existing rating system, we try to put in efforts in making performance as the key discussion in how we can operate, manage, improve our existing cities and communities better over time. And that is where data, as I said, bringing my understanding about data and econometrics and all in that discussion, trying to see how we can continuously improve our communities. And that's where USGBC was launching ARC platform as well. Many of you know who know LEED well would know that we launched that particular platform called ARC, which was earlier called Dynamic Plaque, and we tried to incorporate cities and communities in that discussion as well. And that's where, as I said earlier, this was launched on December 1st or 2nd, 2016, when ARC was launched as well. So initially it was all about data performance, but then people, our stakeholders, asked us, how can we talk about strategies? So you can see now here strategies on us making something happen, and again, continuously improve. So that is the thought process. And with that kind of thought process, you can see that plan and design on the top top two squares and existing at the bottom two squares. All I parse out a little bit more in detail. It's about cities and communities that are in plan and design, cities and communities that are existing. And that's where we see that existing cities need a little bit different kind of requirements compared to cities and communities that are in planning and designing phase. And that is where now we are trying to really work with some of these aspects as well. And I'll tell you in a minute a little bit more about it. But before going to that detail, I wanted to show you the scorecard. People who know LEED better know what is a scorecard, but in a simple term, we call it a table of content. And you can see, being us all being planners, you can see that we are trying to talk about existing cities and communities that would have a lot of planning going on, but that would have a lot of policy and incentives discussion going on here. So integrative planning, green buildings, policy and incentives, natural systems and ecology, and resilience is a key part of whatever we all do these days. So obviously resilience is key part of all these, many of these credits, but here we are giving it a special recognition here. you can see that resilience and reliability is also becoming a big part in the power discussion here, and reliability kind of discussion. But again, going back to the natural systems and ecology, we are trying to really take a stock and see how we can improve it. Then transportation and land use, trying to talk about taking a stock of what is happening on the ground and how we can improve it, including the performance discussion here that I was telling you. Here we are talking about performance, making it a prerequisite. When we say making performance a prerequisite, we are saying, guys, take a stock of what is happening on the ground. Take a stock of your existing performance so that you can start thinking about strategies helping you to improve your performance over months, years, and decades, and so on and so forth, if at all we continuously measure performance. So taking a stock is a good way. And you all may know that LEED has been recognized quite well to bring the governance together, bring all the stakeholders together on one platform, one table, whatever we call it. And that is where we are trying to do that in this particular rating system as well, looking into natural systems and ecology, transportation and land use, water and energy and greenhouse gas emissions, and materials and resources and quality of life. So you can see that we are trying to make a very comprehensive framework here, very comprehensive way in which we address planning and implementation and management and operation and continuously improving, so that we can bring those learnings back in a feedback loop, back into the planning process as well, and make that entire process robust. And I have been talking to a lot of academicians. Many of you might be in that field as well. And our interest is to really bring it back into the planning pedagogy as well, and really see how we can start teaching our students also about planning, obviously, but then what we plan, how do we try to make it operational, how to make those operational things operate and manage at the same level that we planned for, and so on and so forth. So I think that is a lot of momentum that goes into it in making it right. The way we planned, it should be operating at that same level, conceptually speaking. And that is where I think we are trying to do it as a part of this rating system. Again, trying to do it. So you can see here that we are trying to talk about water performance, transportation performance, energy and greenhouse gas performance, water and quality of life performance. So making performance as a prerequisite, but we also try to make net zero discussion very subtle and very integral to this particular rating system as well. So if at all you look into the main intent of the water category and credits and prerequisites, or energy or waste, we talk about net zero water, net zero energy, net zero waste, circular economy, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, this is LEED for cities and communities existing rating system. And this is about plan and design. So mostly all these performance related calculations are also embedded into this plan and design as well. And right from the planning and designing phase, we are trying to say, can you do better? Like, for example, green spaces, 11.25 square meters per person, kind of green spaces that we are asking in here, natural systems and ecology. This is a credit here for existing cities and communities, but in plan and design, we are making it a prerequisite. So you can see that we are trying to tighten it up from the planning point of view and planning approaches point of view as well. And you will see it in many, many credits and prerequisites that you would see here. But when we are trying to make a global rating system that is applicable locally, we try to really see that we offer flexibility and not really tighten it up too much, so that globally cities and communities cannot adapt it. So that is the point with which we are trying to offer innovation and regional priority credits as well, which comprises 10 points. I think out of 110 is reasonably big, significantly big. As you chug along through this process, you'll see that. And we do not do it alone. We try to request many of you to join our teams, try to help us in improving our rating system. So we have a expert group, 47 of them, 67% out of them are internationally located, and they have been helping us in improving our rating systems over time. Many of them come from the smart cities background, data discussion. Many of them they come from the equity and resilience discussion as well. So trying to integrate, interconnect a lot of things as well as a part of this particular discussion. But as I said earlier, trying to make it globally applicable, locally relevant discussion. So I try to get into the weeds and try to understand each and every project to really see how we can help you guys, how we can really translate all the requirements that we have, if at all they are not that obvious, on how it would apply to your project, to work with you and figure out how it can be done and stuff like that. Ultimately, coming from a national DOE research kind of background for 20 years, I realized one thing very subtly being embedded in LEED rating system. Sorry for that. Give me a second. I didn't realize one thing, that is LEED has really made a business case for sustainability along with equity principles. So I think that is where LEED really tries to talk about the triple bottom line. And I was very happy to keep on understanding and improving my understanding over time about that. We are making this particular rating system continuously improving, since this is one of the new ones, so kind of new kid on the block kind of discussion. We are trying to make this rating system very agile. So just giving you reference, that we launched this rating system in December 2016. We launched the version 4.1 for cities and communities in April 2019. And right now we are working on developing version 5. We are coming up with a small addenda by the end of this year before that. But we are working on version 5 and hoping to release version 5 by mid next year. So we are trying to keep it very agile. And again, we work with many experts on the ground. So if at all you are interested, please reach out to me. We'll be happy to invite you when we open up invitations for a consensus committee for LEED for cities and communities that was recently approved by LEED steering committee. And when we are developing such an integrated rating system, we are trying to integrate a lot of good aspects from a lot of different rating systems. And many of you may have known Star Community rating system. It's here. It was in operation until 2017-18 timeframe, and then they integrated into LEED for cities and communities. As well as many other rating systems that USGBC has. We are trying to interconnect, integrate a lot of aspects of this rating systems as well into LEED for cities and communities. But when we are trying to develop a rating system for sustainability, obviously we have aligned our rating system very closely with Sustainable Development Goals. And this is just a graphic trying to give you confidence that we have tried to align our each and every credit and requirement to SDGs. And this particular link on the left-hand side showcases the alignment a little bit more in detail, goal by goal. This particular graphic tries to highlight that LEED for cities and communities rating system, many credits and prerequisites and requirements are aligned with equity, resilience, sustainability, obviously, and health and well-being. So we have tried to really take a lot of efforts, and we want to increase equity-related discussion in version 5 as well, quite a bit. This is just one additional aspect that would like to showcase how each sub-tasks or sub-aspect or sub-priority of these things are aligned in LEED for cities and communities as well. Ultimately, as I said earlier, we want to really talk about going to net zero, going to net positive, as well as regenerative communities ultimately. And we are trying to improve our rating system, as I said earlier, for all these aspects as well. While we are trying to work with a lot of developers, we have to align our rating system with ESG. And we have tried to align our rating system quite closely with ESG and how people work with ESG, right from defining it to embedding it into the operations and engaging stakeholders so that they can really keep on continuously keep on reporting on ESG as well if they use LEED for cities and communities as a tool for them to get certified. So you can see some examples, some of these International Capital Market Association, TCFD kind of frameworks that we are trying to align our work with. But ultimately, the interest is that you have to float bonds, you have to get funding, and so on and so forth. So if at all you certify to LEED for cities and communities, lot of our work and lot of the kind of requirements are aligned with what TCFD or International Capital Markets Association are asking for floating bonds and all. And this is TCFD, very much popular here in the United States, as you can see. And when we are trying to talk about finance, we are also trying to align it with the ESG goals with various financial institutions like Blackstone Group or various developers like Howard Hughes Corporation and their priorities, and how our work or our rating system aligns with their work is the kind of effort we are making. Crescent communities. So Howard Hughes is right now having 4 of their communities getting certified with LEED for cities and communities. And Crescent community has a community in Charlotte that is getting certified, West Row, and in Charlotte getting certified to LEED for cities and communities. Ultimately, our interest is to talk about evaluate local conditions or help you plan it better, try to benchmark performance with peers, and also try to demonstrate continuous progress with various different activities that are being done at a city or a community level. And some of these platforms try to help you work through the LEED project as well. ARC is the platform that I was telling you has been utilizing LEED for cities and communities. And ultimately, our interest is to really talk about good stories, talk about good aspects of the work that is being done by our projects. So resilience is a big discussion that you all have been doing in your daily life. So there is a guide that we have developed on measuring resilience and how can you utilize LEED for cities and communities to really measure resilience, improve resilience related activities on ground with your communities, and so on and so forth. And many of you may know Jerry Tinianov, who was earlier the Chief Sustainability Officer or the first Chief Sustainability Officer of City and County of Denver, and many more. So you can utilize this particular link here to go to many of the webinars and a lot of other things available online as well, stories basically. And there are a lot of other tools and guidance available on that link as well. And we are trying to do a lot of education with LEED for cities and communities. We are working with universities to see ways in which they can utilize our curriculum toolkits available so that students can utilize it in many different ways. Professors lecturers can utilize it in many different ways, whether they want to create a studio or a lecture or some other research topics, they can utilize LEED for cities and communities. They can utilize this to develop a curriculum as well, and many other aspects. You may know about LEED Lab for buildings that has been very popular. Similarly, we have created something called LEED Studio that is utilizing LEED for cities and communities framework as well. And we do various activities like students can go in and do a community assessment as well, like a site assessment kind of activity, and do a whole community or city certified, or they can do some small parts of it. Various professors have been working with us in different ways, like if at all their interest is nature-based solutions, then they would look into ecosystem and assessment. Someone would take up transportation, someone would take up energy or circularity kind of materials related discussions. Clarkson University was the first one to adopt LEED for cities and communities framework to create their whole studio around it with 15 credits. And they got one of the communities certified. Many of you may know Lake Placid. That was, we had Olympics, 1932, 1980 Olympics. Winter Olympics. And then they have been utilizing those facilities for many of the other international games. And there were earlier this year, FISU World University Winter Games were organized there as well. And these 14 students, undergrad students from Clarkson University, with the help of these two professors and they tried to get this entire community certified to LEED as well. And then we offer training for LEED for Cities and Communities Pro certification. This is not LEED accredited professional, but this is something called LEED for Cities and Communities Pro, in which these are two 4-hour modules. So total 8-hour modules. You can see these two, these are two 4-hour modules with which total 8 hours, and then we give a certificate of LEED for Cities and Communities Pro. One of those was the training took place in June, and that was done in the collaboration with USGBC Los Angeles. And the next week I did that training with Colombia as well. Similar LEED for Cities and Communities Pro certificate. And we have one more coming up in October timeframe. I think 19th and 20th of October. We are trying to organize it with USGBC Texas as well. So we'll be happy to share that information with you all through APA Sustainable Communities Division as well. Ultimately, just giving you now perspectives about how LEED for Cities and Communities projects are and where all they are. So you can see here, as I was telling you, that most of you know LEED for buildings quite well. And those numbers are in thousands, more than 200,000 projects and all. But here we are trying to talk about LEED for Cities and Communities. They are in hundreds. It's still small compared to our LEED for buildings related rating system. But you can see that we have a lot of projects in the United States and elsewhere. The circles that you see in green are all certified projects, and the circles that you see in blue are registered projects, and orange are pre-certified projects. So you can see a lot of cities in the United States have been certified, and a lot of communities have been certified elsewhere, and they're registered as well. So you can see right now we have more than 166 global community projects that are registered, 35 certified and 52 pre-certified. And I would not go much into detail, but as I said earlier, USGBC is trying to, really make a business case with triple bottom line. So you can see here that you can utilize this framework to talk about net zero discussion. You can utilize this framework to talk about ESG discussion. You can utilize this framework to really talk about your leadership in this discussion, and so on and so forth. And again, the technical benefits of tracking progress, talking about a comprehensive framework, bringing all your colleagues and departments together on one table, whether it's a city or a community, are simple, similar benefits that anyone can understand. Well, many cities are utilizing LEED for Cities and Communities in United States mostly. And any size of a city or a community can work with us. That is the kind of thought process. And that is where my colleague Hilary Varnador, who mainly focuses on LEED for cities existing, she or I, we try to work with a lot of these projects and go into details, talk to them and say, guys, what are your pinch points, how we can help you utilize LEED for cities and communities with this particular rating system. So just giving you a glimpse of it. And well, this is a very interesting slide. I keep on using it quite often, that when DC got certified in August 2017, immediately after Labor Day, they launched this campaign to invite Amazon's second headquarters. Many of you might have been involved in that process. 238 cities across Northern America took part in it. And DC was one of the 20 finalists. And along with which, Arlington County also got certified, and they announced it. And when Amazon's employees were trying to finally make a decision. They were trying to look into the LEED certification for Arlington County as well, where their second headquarters now is near the Reagan National Airport. So my interest is to just highlight that many cities and communities and counties are becoming part of it, but we have a lot of communities also becoming a part of it, whether they are developer owned communities or whether they are corporate campuses or whether they are city owned communities and so on and so forth. So I will try to highlight some of these examples very quickly. As I was telling Carla and Christine earlier, I have a lot of slides, but we'll try to go through them in much more detail. But if I can't go through many of them, then I'll try to right now give you a glimpse of it, that we have a lot of international projects, a lot of projects that are in planning and designing phase, a lot of projects that are like 3 square kilometer area here, or this is Milan's innovation district done by Land Lease in, it was earlier the World Expo in Milan that took place in 2015. I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's 100 hectare project, and Land Lease is selectively developing parcels of it. Huge project in Brazil, 11,000 residents, social housing in Colombia, 38 acres project on Maine in Dayton, Universal theme park in Beijing. After this, Disney theme park in Shanghai also got certified. Another theme park from Universal in Orlando is right now getting certified as well. A lot of existing communities like Boston Properties or Howard Hughes are getting certified as well. You can see here, some of you who are in Texas may know Woodlands and Bridgeland by Howard Hughes. They are getting certified. Golden Triangle Business Improvement Districts, or this Stuyvesant Town in Peter Cooper Village in Lower Manhattan, owned by Blackstone and Ivanhoe. They have done a lot of energy efficiency retrofits. They have 3.4 megawatt worth of rooftop solar and a lot of other activities. Balboa Park kind of historic districts are also becoming part of it. And San Francisco International Airport and Atlanta Airport kind of airports are also becoming airport communities as well. And humongous projects like 50 square kilometers or 100 square kilometer kind of projects are also becoming part of it. Plan and design purely, but still they are small numbers because they are small numbers globally as well. So this is just a glimpse of it. I'll try to highlight some of these projects, mixed use developments for an example. But this is a very interesting 70 acres project in almost the center of Milan called Porta Nova. And it was earlier a fallow land for a long time. And they, for last 20 years, they have been developing this particular land. And Coima is a company that is developing, managing this parcel of land. And you can see so many interesting buildings that have been certified to LEED well, have been constructed over the last 20 years. But a humongous effort you can see. And some of these pictures you have always seen, Bosco Verticale, designed by Stefano Boeri. And now Stefano has been designing many such projects globally as well. But these two housing complexes were his first such experiment in Milan. And you can see the glimpses of some of the other landmark buildings as well. They have a very interesting garden in the center, humongous garden, and they have been utilizing it very effectively over time. This is a 4 square kilometer area in Guatemala, right out of Guatemala City. You can in background see Guatemala City, and this is the project already existing with 7,500 jobs and 10,000 people living in it, and mixed use community, obviously you can see. This is another mixed use community in India, a project in China, another project in China. This is another humongous project, 2,000 hectares project in China as well. Another humongous project in China. Urban redevelopment projects are many. Madrid, north of Madrid is getting redeveloped. You can see this entire area. It is 235 hectares area in north of Madrid that is getting redeveloped. And they are utilizing LEED for cities and communities that's already pre-certified. And this project is in our backyard. in St. Paul, Minneapolis, 112 acres project that was obviously now deemed brownfield with the mercury pollution and all. And they are now right now trying to create 100, sorry, they are trying to create 1,000 households, and they're trying to create 1,000 jobs. So St. Paul Port Authority is trying to do a lot of efforts to talk to the community for almost 2.5 years. They have talked to the community and done a lot of efforts, a lot of engagements, try to really understand what they want, created various scenarios so that they can try to talk about various strategies for wealth creation, workforce agreements as well, and vendor diversity, try to go to net zero as well. So you can see the details of what they want to do on workforce agreement. And right now they are trying to get these workforce agreements done on the ground. So you can see that they are trying to really focus on creating equitable communities. And along with which they want to also talk about walkability and regenerative communities as well. But again, the St. Paul Port Authority is doing this as a real estate development. So they don't want to really create this community and price them out of the market. So they are trying to do a lot of business case related discussion, talking to city, trying to get their support, you can see here, but also at the same time, working with the employment exchange and other kind of facilities to really make sure that they give what they are planning for. And this is the entire discussion that I've been talking about. How can we make and operationalize our communities more sustainable, more equitable, more resilient, utilize some of these frameworks to work with the companies like Just 2.0 and so on and so forth, so that companies operating within the community can also be more equitable and sustainable. Ultimately, their interest was to really make it carbon free, but not to price out that particular development out of the market. So they have created various scenarios, and you can see this is one of the selected scenario with 1,000 jobs and 1,000 households. But they are also trying to provide 20% of green spaces. You can see this purple color. They have tried to provide some. Institutional. Light industrial as well. And with light industrial, they could accomplish the 1,000 jobs kind of criteria. But here you can see that they are trying to create various strategies in which they can go to net zero. And they are trying to offer various strategies. And they have done a lot of economic analysis with bundle 1, bundle 2, and stuff like that, and trying to really figure out what are their incremental costs going to be and what are their operational savings going to be. So you can see I'm just toggling between these two screens, but their operational savings are almost equivalent. So they could make a life cycle discussion so that they can answer some of these questions and say, yes, guys, we can make it work. We can make it operational. These are some of the strategies. And this is just an example of one of the light industrial complexes that they are going to create. Ultimately, I think they want to really make it work. And that's where they are talking about partnerships. And they are utilizing some of the frameworks like LEED for Communities and Just 2.0 to support their work. This is a similar example in 38 acres on Maine in Dayton. Again, as I showed this example, 3.5 square kilometer area in Guangzhou. This is a very interesting, humongous development. It's a financial hub in West Bund in Shanghai. And you can see how much of development, what all activities they're trying to do, and go to almost 4.35 tons per capita per year kind of discussion with a lot of different strategies there. We are trying to work with communities that are trying to traditionally redline historically neglected communities as well. One example is Williamsburg community in Brooklyn. Another example is Lift Jacks in Jacksonville, Florida as well. And we are trying to work with some of this community to really see how we can do an initial assessment with LEED for Communities and try to then work with other partners to bring capital and do a sustainable development, equitable development as well. There are more real estate developer-led master plan communities that we have been working with as well globally. And this was that Mind district that I was talking to you. Land Lease is working in Milan, Italy. And this is just a 3D graphic of that part of the project, not the full project. But this is another project, Westgate, which is also trying to do a lot of good work. Sorry, Westgate was that. Mind Village is this, where they are trying to provide a lot of housing for employees that are going to be working there. They are working with a big hospital standing next door, and bringing in a big university complex there as well. This is in Reston, Virginia. Boston Properties is they have certified this particular complex that was earlier Sasaki's master plan community. Very interesting area. In Colombia, Bogota, we have a big developer called Marval that is certifying 2 communities. Wangke is a big developer in China, and they have also utilized LEED for communities. Howard Hughes, Woodland and Bridgeland, as I was telling you earlier. Again, Wangke's transit-oriented development in Hangzhou. This is the river district in Charlotte, done by Crescent Communities. As you can see here, humongous first phase West Row coming up. Another humongous complex near Bogota in Colombia. This particular developer, this particular social housing, its entire community is a big social housing development. It's, I think, 15,000 people. And this part is already done, but they are doing other parts of it as well. This is Kerry is another big developer in China, and they are utilizing it to go net zero waste and so on and so forth. A few projects in Middle East, Oman. This is a very interesting downtown Brooklyn project in New York City called Alloy Block. This is all electric buildings. Another humongous project in Brazil, Portobello. Another project in Medellin. This has been mainly anchored by Bancolombia. So in Colombia, Bancolombia and Bank Bogota are working with us in offering green finances to some of the developers as well. This particular project just got certified a couple of weeks ago. Very huge development. This is an S&T park in China, giving you examples of some of these communities like this in Brazil, and also that you get a glimpse of the projects globally that we have on working on various different aspects. Corporate campuses, I was telling you earlier, this is Siemens original headquarter, now being Siemens City 2, Siemens Stat 2 and 2.0, and they have been changing this name frequently, but last I saw it was Siemens Stat 2. It is a 70 hectares project in Berlin, and they are also pre-certified, and you can see that they are trying to create a good fabric in a way that they collaborate with community around them as well. And they are trying to utilize all of their strategies. So you can see right now they're trying to talk about which buildings are LEED certified buildings among this 70 hectares project. And they're trying to really create an open city, but also trying to utilize a lot of innovative architectural competitions to design their anchor buildings and design their anchor community as well. And ultimately, they want to create a smart infrastructure. Obviously, it's Siemens, so they are trying to make it a smart campus, smart community, and they are trying to talk about carbon neutrality, but also trying to fuse all these very, very fancy technologies within that particular community. This is their headquarters and their original, original offices and original factory buildings and so on and so forth, right? So they want to really put in all these fancy technologies in there and try to really make it the most sustainable campus that they can make with all the fancy technologies in there. So I'm not going to go into much of the details, but these are some of the ways in which they have also done digital twinning for the entire campus and all. If at all Samsung is working with us, then obviously Samsung is also going to work with us. And this is their project in Shenzhen, China as well. Airports, as I was telling you, Atlanta Airport has gotten certified, but San Francisco Airport is also certified. They got certified October last year to platinum level. And we are talking about the whole airport community. So you can see the whole boundary line, but it also incorporates a lot of their strategy that are done with the community as well. They are trying to go net zero energy, carbon neutrality, as well as zero waste. And they're trying to infuse a lot of these strategies in each and every aspect that they do. As you can see here, this is their scorecard, and they are trying to talk about resilience ecosystem as well as they're trying to put in 2,400 electric charging stations. They are trying to recycle their water, trying to do energy savings as well as distributed energy related things. They want to go net zero carbon by 2030, 80% of diversion rate with the circularity mapping, as well as they are using a quality of life tool as well to improve quality of life of people within and outside. This is again an example of their resilience and net zero energy carbon planning. This is their transportation and land use, again going low carbon, but also they are trying to provide a lot of strategies in which their people using the airport would be easier for them to get in and get out. They are trying to talk about compostable materials, and I think they have banned all the plastic materials from all the vendors as well, vendors that are selling food and stuff like that as well. So obviously you can talk about the quality of life within the airport, but they are also talking about quality of life beyond the airport and for the community around them, and racial equity discussion and so on and so forth. They are trying to go net zero, and they are trying to put a lot of investments you can see here, and they're trying to really do a lot of interesting activities to go net zero. They are also trying to do a lot of cost benefit analysis, and you can see their numbers similar to that community in St. Paul as well. They have been utilizing a lot of different strategies and frameworks to help them in that particular process, and trying to go net zero in various ways by utilizing these frameworks. Obviously, you can see LEED is their top choice as well. Nonetheless, other frameworks are very useful as well. They are trying to, sorry, give me a second, please. They are trying to institutionalize some of these frameworks. And while I talk about this, recently, right now, I'm working recently since they got certified with LEED for communities. We are trying to design their planning guidelines, learning from LEED for communities. So they have done a lot of good work, and bravo, thanks to them. But there is a lot more that needs to be done as well. So the way they have created the sustainable planning and design construction guidelines, now they are trying to expand their sustainable planning and design guidelines and say at the community level what they can do. So this guideline that they tried to launch in 2021, now they are trying to talk about sustainable planning at the community level and how they can do it, learning from LEED for communities as well. So there are a lot of investor-owned communities as well. I talked to you about this development that is in Lower Manhattan, developed in 1940s, old NYCHA housing, and that has been now converted into very interesting, swanky Lower Manhattan apartments. Obviously, they have done a lot of investments, as you can see here. And this is interesting community in Songdo, South Korea, with 118 LEED certified buildings. It's a 6.5 square kilometer area, but totally 27 million square feet. It's not about only this LEED certified buildings, but they have a central, Cisco established center, smart city center, that is really trying to look into the entire campus as well and what they can do. And this has been touted as one of the best examples of smart city technologies being installed. And this is one of them removing waste pneumatically from the entire 6.5 square kilometer area. I wouldn't go much in detail, but many such projects are working with us. That land lease project that I was showing you earlier from Milan is also touted as one of the best examples recently about smart city. They are talking about nature-based solutions. They are going net zero and many other things. So this is another project in Brazil, project in China, interesting strategies. Rockefeller Center, 15,000 people working there, is working on LEED for communities. and another developer-owned community, which is basically creating, this was an old airport. They are trying to refurbish and create infrastructure around it. Another innovation city in China. This is another interesting project in Milan that has been done by Generali. Generali is the insurance company, and this very interesting project. You can see Zaha Hadid has their design projects, and many other projects are there. Universities have been working with us to certify their campuses as well, and this is just one example from Montclair State University. And I'll try to end in a few minutes now. This is the Balboa Park that I was showing you, business improvement district like Golden Triangle. Residential communities, I was showing you this particular example earlier. It should move forward. It's not moving forward. It is now. Argentina project, interesting one. China project. This is another humongous development in China. We have, as I was telling you, theme park communities or entertainment districts as well. Winter Olympics took place in China recently, and one of the three communities that is 3 square kilometer that got pre-certified with LEED for communities as well. Universal theme park in Beijing, Shanghai theme park in Disney theme park in Shanghai, and city scale developments have been working with us. This is the third international airport in Beijing that opened up in September 2019. And this 50 square kilometer economic development zone administered by Beijing has been utilizing LEED for cities and communities. And that was the first project that got certified to LEED for cities plan and design at platinum level. They had 49 strategies. They had an entire document. This was a humongous development done at the national scale. So National Development Reform Commission is managing this particular entire project, and they did all the approvals with these 49 strategies from the National Development Reform Commission. But when they started working with U.S. Green Building Council's LEED for Cities and Communities, they said, okay, we need to improve our 49-point system. And then they went back, improved their entire master planning and all, and then went back to the National Development and Reform Commission to get a reapproval of this particular entire master planning for this 50 square kilometer area. So thought to show it to you. This is a humongous project in Saudi Arabia, an energy park, a port-based facility. It has a lot of residential, commercial, but it also has a lot of industrial area as well. As I said, port-based energy park, right? So you can see the details here. But they are also trying to go net zero, and they have certified. This is another project, 95 square kilometer area in Philippines as well. Mixed use development, resiliency, and all are key part of that discussion. This is another city scale project in Saudi Arabia, Red Sea development. In fact, I don't have it here, but NEOM have been touted as another big project in Saudi Arabia. That is starting to work with us. We have done pre-feasibility for last 6 months, and they'll be registering sometime soon. We have Masdar, many of you may have heard about. They are also about to register to LEED for cities and communities as well. So ultimately, our interest is to really see how we can work with the diversity of projects. And we know that each project is unique. So each project would need to understand how LEED for cities and communities is unique for them. So we provide the technical assistance, again, being a new kid on the block, even after 350 projects, we still try to offer a lot of help to each and every project. And we get into weeds with each and every project. So consider us as your backstop, looking forward to working with you all. This is just the beginning. We also call it that certification is the beginning of a long-term relationship. So we would love to establish those long-term relationships with each and every one of you urban planners representing on this particular webinar. So thank you once again, APA SCD and APA Ohio chapter for giving us this opportunity. And thank you all for being here. Happy to answer however much I can. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We do have a ton of questions coming in, so we're going to go ahead and get those started. First of all, there are some questions about the difference between like LEED for cities versus like LEED for neighborhoods, and can you do LEED for cities but just in a neighborhood, or do you have to do LEED for neighborhood development? How does that all, like, how do they intertwine? What if a neighborhood within a city is already LEED ND? Can, you know, is that part of the LEED city? All of those types of questions, if you could kind of
Yeah.
break all that down.
Yeah, I'll try to. I'll try to. So this question comes to us almost every day, you know, we are urban planners, right? So we try to design this particular rating system, looking into the comprehensive strategies that we try to implement, whether it's at a city scale or whether it's at a community scale. Small discussion. Many of the strategies are useful for city level discussion, but many of the strategies are useful for community level discussion as well. And that we as urban planners, we keep on dabbling into this discussion all the times, right? So that was our thought process when we were trying to design this particular rating system. We said, let us try to really see how we can leverage our knowledge as planners to dabble between those things. So again, I try to give the preamble. Now the actual answer. So, well, we do certify city as a whole. So if at all it's a government entity like a city agency or a town agency or a village agency that wants to get a whole town, a city, whole village, whole county want to get certified, basically a county government or city government. If they want to do it, then definitely they can follow LEED for cities and communities existing. And I'll try to go back to some of those slides, Christine, if it's okay, and try to share my screen again so that I try to showcase those differences. See, I mean, frankly speaking, let me first hide this, then hide this. Okay. So I hope you can see. Okay. Went back to this one. Sorry, guys. I had a different slide up and I could not show it to you all, so my mistake. See if you can see this slide. Okay, perfect. So here, for an example, if at all it's an existing city, as I was telling you all earlier, then they can utilize this LEED for cities existing. And any other entity, whether it's a neighborhood, a community, a business improvement district, even within like a city, may have some economic development corporations that are developing some of the parts of the city in neighborhoods or communities. Then we can work with them as LEED for communities. Ultimately, if at all you have any interest in certifying a city or a part of a city or a community or a town or a village, please just reach out to us, conceptually speaking. And we can figure out those nuances with you. But our interest is to work with all types of cities and communities. So any shape, size, format, scale is not at all an issue. So if at all it's a 5-acre project with few buildings, or a 50 square kilometer project, or a 200 square kilometer project, we can work with it. That is my simple thought process. Because you can see some of the requirements that we have here, they are scalable. And at times there might be some confusion. And we understand that, because when we are trying to make a rating system that is scalable as well as globally applicable, there can be some confusions. And that's where we offer our seamless help. As I said, consider us as your backstop so that we can work with you all. And first trying to figure out what kind of solution is useful for your type of application. But then how do we go into each and every credit or requisite, prerequisite or requirement and try to apply it to your kind of specific situation. So let me pause here. Christine, I hope I tried to answer those things. If not, I can go into much more details as well. Thank you.
You're good. Thank you. This next question is talking about like institutional facilities, like whether it be like a school complex, or like a hospital campus, a university, or even like a military base or an airport, where do they turn to? What can you do a LEED for community there, or is it just
Yes.
building based, or what are some of those kind of special projects play?
Bingo. So as I showed in say San Francisco Airport, right? I mean, they have been certifying few buildings, but when we took this concept of communities with them, they're like, oh wow, yes, we do so many things that we cannot account for. I was just talking to colleagues from Cincinnati Zoo and Columbus Zoo. And they were like, yeah, LEED is great, buildings are great, but I'm talking about the whole zoo-based sustainability strategy. And how do we do it? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I'm jumping up and down in my chair, but I'm still trying to hold my emotions and say, okay, see this, if at all it's useful to you, and then we'll figure out. By the end of that 1.5 hours, they said, yes, bingo, this works. So I think the point here is that when you want to talk about comprehensive strategies, that's where some of the LEED for communities kind of discussion works, because we, again, being an urban planner, I'm like, okay, how can we really comprehensively capture this discussion in one framework? Again, I would accept that there are holes. And that's where we have those 10 credits or 10 points for people to pick it up and say, oh, I'm just saying XYZ. You are not highlighting it in your rating system. We want to do it. Yeah, go ahead and do it as an innovation point. So that is the kind of thought process. Sorry, I went into a tangent, but I was trying to highlight that, yes, I think if at all it's more than one building, I'm just broadly saying, we can assess it, but it's more than one building, you can use LEED for communities as a framework.
Thank you. In order to administer any LEED project, does the administrator need to be certified ahead of time in any way? Or is there training that needs to be done? And if so, is there a cost associated with it?
So for LEED for cities and communities, we don't have that requirement. However, in innovation points, we recently started giving one innovation point for people having LEED AP, and they have taken, they have taken, so LEED AP, and they have taken LEED for cities and communities pro training, the pro training that I was mentioning earlier for 8 hours. That's the only one suggestion that we make, and offer 1 point for that discussion. Otherwise, there is no other prerequisite. Many of us as urban planners get into it and see what it is, how it is, and figure it out. And I, coming from not the LEED background, I wanted to infuse some of these kind of generalization to the rating system. Even LEED ND has a requirement that you need to have one LEED certified building. We are saying we are agnostic. Yes, we are LEED, we love it, but we are agnostic. We are giving credits for you to have some of the buildings certified to LEED or many other similar rating systems. So we know that green buildings are key part of any of our urban development, right? Depending upon, like, I'm near New York City. So 70–80% of the greenhouse gas emissions or water used is buildings. But still, there is many things more than that. And then as we change the scale of urban development, then the percentages would change. So that's where we are saying we want to give priority to buildings, but buildings are not everything in our rating system. That's just one part of the larger discussion.
Could you speak to the inequity of LEED in terms of the cost and the manpower that it takes a community? How do communities get around that? How do small rural communities that, you know, want to attempt something like this, how can they do it? Or even larger communities that just, they don't have the funds. How do we make it equitable for everybody?
As I was showing you couple other examples where we are trying to work with just local community development agencies, trying to really work with them. And I think our interest is to really work with each and every type of community. So if they don't have fund, I still say, let's start talking. Let's start figuring out how we can work together. If you can certify to LEED, that's great. If you want to utilize this framework to do something, I'll be very happy, genuinely. So that is one simple answer. Second, additional information is that I'm right now trying to work with our colleagues, our management, to see if at all we can launch something, an initiative. Again, these are all in works, so we haven't yet finalized the nuances, but we are trying to work with them to say, what if we work with communities that have resilience, dire resilience needs, or communities that have been traditionally neglected or redlined. As planners, we all know those terminologies. So how can we work with those communities and see we can leverage our members? USGBC has more than 8,000, 10,000 members. Many of them are these big materials companies or technology companies that want to work with us. So I'm just trying to find out ways to see how we can work with any and every community that wants to work with LEED.
What do you say to the planner who is on board, but who has decision makers that they report to that have zero interest? What is their elevator speech? What do they need to say? This is why we need to do this.
Yeah. Well, again, I'll brag about it now because this is my opportunity. I mean, if it's a community within a larger urban context, and then we say, well, you're going to get a lot of branding opportunities. Simple thing, people know it. I don't need to say anything more than that. Then about net zero discussion, about equity discussion, about ecosystem assessment and those kind of discussions, about even all the nearness discussion, like 15-minute city or whatever we call it. All those have been incorporated in the rating system. So when I was part of developing this rating system, I did a comparison of 30 such rating systems, guidelines, whatever we call it, and assimilated all of them, and before developing this rating system, and said, what are their priorities? How are they looking into it? And even if they were trying to talk about happiness index or something else, they were focusing on all these integrated aspects that are part of this particular rating system. So as an urban planner, this is a very comprehensive rating system. As I said, there are holes, fine enough, but still, it's a very comprehensive rating system. So if at all a planner is trying to make that kind of case, a planner is also trying to fight all the day-to-day challenges to really bring all their stakeholders on one table, even all the departments on one table, and so on and so forth. So this can act as a governance tool. This can act as a tool for going net zero. This can act as a tool to take a stock and then talk about the progress going forward, continuous improvement kind of thing. It can act as a branding thing, as DC showed and Arlington counties showed. It can act as a tool to bring more investments in there. There can be many such opportunities. But last point I want to make is that to such a planner, consider again me as your backstop or my colleagues as backstop, because we always work with a lot of planners, experts who want to make that case to different stakeholders to really give those supporting documentation to them and give examples from various projects to them to say, guys, if you want to create a slide deck, let's try to help you create slide decks with some of the specific business case related details and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Next question. This is an interesting one.
Sure.
Are there is there anything related to LEED for cities and communities that brings in the historic preservation perspective, adaptive reuse, anything along those lines?
Yeah, of course. we were designing the transportation and land use category. And I'll try to share my screen if I can. We were trying to design the transportation and land use category. And that was the time we were trying to infuse that aspect of it. And we were trying to see how much efforts or how many points can we give to that aspect. And again, as you said, being an urban planner, very, very much interested in that aspect of it. I was trying to advocate for getting more points to it. But when we started putting all the things together that we can incorporate in transportation and land use, and then all the things that we can put together in the rating system, we could only give certain points. So that is my caveat and my pain point, or where I'm still not happy with. I'm trying to highlight first before saying that we have 2 points here for high priority site. So in this particular credit, we have all the things that you have highlighted, like previously developed sites or brownfield redevelopments or historic preservation and so on and so forth. So yes, there are 2 points only, but we have that captured there specifically in that particular credit.
Okay, thank you. I'm just looking through here. Okay, here's one. Can you define green space? And is private green space considered green space? And I guess the larger question is, I'm assuming that when you're going through any LEED process, that there is like a glossary of terms that is defined and all the metrics involved.
Of course, I agree with you. So yeah, I mean, I can define green space in 2-3 different ways that we try to highlight it in our projects. And we say that it has to be minimum 11.25 square meter per person. Then we also say that the nearness. So nearness is about 800 meters from every household or every office, basically. So that's where we are trying to showcase those kind of priorities. And then there is green space that is defined according to the EPA guidelines as well. So yes, it's publicly accessible green space that that's what we are talking about. And other things that I said, 11.25 square meters per person, 800 meters walkable distance, and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you. At the start of today, before we turned the cameras on, we were the 3 of us were discussing vehicles and specifically electric vehicles. Is there anything in any of the LEEDs, particularly this one, that takes into account charging electric vehicles in any way, or city fleets, anything, you know, city vehicle fleets, whatever, charging rules, regulations, anything like that?
Absolutely. This is quite near and dear to my heart. So we have charging infrastructure related credit. I don't have those credit language up with me, but I can highlight it very quickly. So we have alternative fuel vehicles credit here, and there we are trying to talk about this one. My cursor is going around. Alternative fuel vehicles, again, 2 credits only. But we are saying that you need to have minimum of X amount of charging infrastructure, so charging stations in your community, publicly accessible. And then we are saying you need to also think about some numbers. So we talk about percentages and numbers of minimum available charging infrastructure within a community. So like if at all, sorry, Christine, but if at all there is a high density, then we talk about per person as well. And then we talk about some percentages of total public parking spaces as well.
In terms of logistics of getting LEED certified, is the general idea that a community would contract out the administration of the LEED project, or can it really be done in-house? Is it possible for a person with a small staff to complete something like this and keep track of everything themselves? Can they do it?
Absolutely. One word answer. But again, I think what happens is LEED has been generally done by LEED experts. Here, as you asked me probably that first or second question, and I said we don't have any of those requirements that you need to have any LEED credentials, because many of the urban planners don't have LEED credentials, and that's fine. So even if you are not an urban planner, please feel free to work with us. So I think very simple answer is that yes, any and everybody can use it. Many times people use LEED, but again, the requirements are more urban planning requirements. So yes, you can say LEED requirements because this is a LEED rating system, but we have purposefully tried to make these requirements more urban planning requirements, simply understood by urban planners kind of requirements.
Stepping back to equity, but from a different perspective, are there pieces within LEED that talk, or that you can get points for things like environmental justice and equity, things like that? Is that discussed at all? Is that covered?
You are asking me the question that I forgot to address. So quality of life section, we have 20 points here. We have given 20 points purposefully for those things. And I think this is LEED for cities and communities existing, but I can show you the plan and design as well. I'm just going to toggle between these two continuously. It's not going. Okay. So you can see this is plan and design and this is existing. We write from a demographic assessment to quality of life performance, where we talk about there are 9 parameters that are assessing equity and public health and safety and so on and so forth. So those are the parameters in performance. Then we talk about trend improvements in all these quality of life parameters. We talk about distributional equity. We talk about environmental justice. Then we talk about housing and transportation affordability, and then civic and human rights and all those things, as well as public engagement as well. And some of these things are differently captured, but they are there. But you can see just by names: economic growth, affordable housing, public health, social infrastructure, and all those things. And going back to this, they are there. So these are there. They have been highlighted based on whether that's an existing city or a community, or a city or community in plan and design. In city or a community plan and design, we make certain things implicit by saying, oh, you are planning for it, right? So you must have, you must accomplish 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's why we are not highlighting certain things that have been highlighted here. We are not highlighting them here, but they are integral part of the discussion for sure, 100%.
Could you briefly speak on the credits for resilience planning? That's so critical and important these days.
Yes, absolutely. We have kept the resilience planning 4 points here and in the existing rating system, and 6 points in the plan and design. You can see here. So explicitly, resilience assessment and resilience planning has been captured here. So for an example, we say resilience assessment, 3 points. And obviously there are a lot of details in there, all about resilience assessment, and then resilience planning. So all about resilience planning. So if you look back into this particular credit, you can see we have given 6 points, and 3 points for assessment, 3 points for planning and implementation. And here also you can see that we are in an existing city or a community, we are giving them 4 points for doing that as well. Nonetheless, I think the point is that you can see them captured here in power access and reliability and resilience. And here also in water, we talk about it. Green infrastructure is captured in the water related discussion in the stormwater credit and so on and so forth. So likewise, we have tried to incorporate a lot of these aspects of resilience in various different credits as well. Like even in the emergency management, I think it's in this one. Emergency management, we are trying to ask for the nearness part of it as well. In the social infrastructure, we are asking about nearness part of it as well. So I think that's where some of these resilience has been captured explicitly and implicitly in many of the credit requirements.
I think last question. Do you foresee there being a LEED AP for cities and communities?
I'm dying for it. I mean, yeah, there are our rating system, and I respect it. So sorry, that was kind of fun. But genuinely, when I started working on this rating system, I have been saying, so since 2014-15, I've been saying, when can we have LEED AP for cities and communities? But it's been 13-14, and it's been almost 9-10 years. So you can see my aggravation. But that's where we have launched this in-between stage called LEED for Cities and Communities Pro, which is trying to do that. And people asked that question, I don't know, or they glossed over it. But one last thing, I know we have very few seconds left, but LEED ND and LEED for Communities are two offerings that USGBC has right now in the market that is creating a lot of confusion. And I'm right now working on trying to figure out ways to combine these two things. What I'm saying, whatever you name it, we don't care. But LEED for ND is more about urban design, more about, not everything, more about. And LEED for cities and communities is more about urban planning, including design. So what we are trying to do right now, again, this is inside the baseball, but separating out these rating systems. So the rating system in 1 year will be showing a little bit differently. So cities existing will be separated out so that requirements, it is tied with the hip, but requirements will be different for LEED for cities existing, which will be existing towns, villages, XYZ. But LEED for communities, plan and design and existing and all, and cities will be separated out. So that is where we'll be able to say this is LEED for communities, plan and design, and LEED for neighborhood development. We'll be now able to combine these two things, find commonalities, because when we were talking about LEED for cities, plan and design, that was very difficult for our colleagues to put a, kind of hit the nail on the head saying, how can we really do that? So that is where I think I'm trying to talk about some of the aggravations that we all have within ourselves. But long story short, we'll be combining LEED ND and LEED for cities and communities, LEED for communities and LEED ND. And that is where we'll be able to also work with LEED ND APs and grandfather those things into this AP and so on and so forth. So sometime next year, this time, we will have some answers.
Wonderful. We'll have to have you back. And thank you for joining us today. And of course, the consortium of divisions that bring together the Sustainability and Resilience series. Again, head over to YouTube and just type in Planning Webcast and we'll pop up. And you'll see that, that there's a whole playlist of just the SNR sessions. If you need information like CM numbers or titles of today's event, head over to our website, ohioplanning.org/planning webcast. That's also where you can register for all of our upcoming sessions. So thank you. Thank you both. And everyone have a great weekend and we'll talk next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.